I'm Maureen Ewan, violinist and violist, and this is Diodario's Sound Advice. Today I'm going to talk about thirds. I think we all dread playing thirds. They're uncomfortable to play, they're hard to play in tune, and I would distill double stops in general down to two issues, of course, which is playing in tune on two strings at the same time, and the fact that we have to shift much more frequently in order to play several double stops in a row. So what I like to do is to demystify thirds as early as possible in a student's training. So whether you yourself are a professional player or you're working with students, I think this is advice that we could all benefit from. And I build this thirds exercise from the most simple of technical exercises, which is the 1-octave scale. So the way that you want to think about the 1-octave scale is that you can turn it to an exercise in which you focus on playing in tune across two strings rather than just playing in tune on one string. So, by playing in tune on one string, I mean perhaps if you're just going to play the scale, you can see that my wrist is pivoting back and forth to make sure my hand frame stays the same when I go from the G string to the E string and back. Now, of course, we don't have this luxury when we're trying to play in tune on two strings at the same time. So I'll show you what I like to teach my students. So of course, we don't use any open strings, and this can be modified for any key, any position. You don't have to start on the tonic. I'm just playing now for you in G major in first position because I believe that's where so many of us begin our training. So, G major, fourth finger here, and very carefully, I'm just going to pick up my first finger and move it to E. If your student has trouble with this coordination, you can have them just do this exercise like this without making sound, just picking up the first finger and moving it across the string. Because when they separate that from the tone production or intonation part of it, it just becomes a physical exercise. And once they've mastered that, you just want to make sure they're playing it in tune, and you see that none of my other fingers are moving. And then I do the same thing with my second finger. I just pick it up, move it across to F sharp, and you see, haven't moved my first finger, haven't moved my third finger, haven't moved my fourth finger. And now, I can play thirds. It's that simple. I think you can even have a young beginner student do this because, they don't know yet that thirds are difficult. And if we teach it this way, they'll never know that thirds are difficult. So let me also show this to you in second position in a minor key. So let's look at B melodic minor. I'm going to do it on the D and A string this time. And you see, these minor thirds, which are further apart, of course, across two strings than our major thirds. And they're two minor thirds a half step apart, which we often think of as a quite difficult configuration. But you see how comfortable and simple that looks with this method. And you see when I do it on the D and A string, it's still a 1-octave, well, it's almost a 1-octave scale. It's really 6 notes. I'm not starting on Do, but I'm starting on Sol. And again, any key, any position, here's your secret to playing thirds easily and in tune. And now I'm going to talk about shifting in thirds. And of course, we can actually talk about all sorts of double stops as well. We should be thinking very carefully about how we shift using what we call guide notes or ghost notes. Your teacher or you may use a different term, but it's basically the finger that connects you from one position to the next. The general rule is the old finger in the new position is your guide note. So if I am shifting up to, say, from third finger to fourth finger, this is my guide note, and coming down, that's my guide note. All right, so we have the guide finger, which is the finger you're going to use, and the note, which is the note that the guide finger goes to in the new position. So let's first talk about octaves. Octaves are so much fun, aren't they? So the 1-finger scale is what you want to practice. You'll know that I'm a big fan of 1-octave work because why make more work than you have to? And so what we'll do is 1-octave scales with one finger on each string. So let's say we'll start on the D string. Let's do E flat major. Could be better in tune. And coming back down. What you may or may not be able to see from the video, I'm going to turn around and hopefully you'll catch this, is I am not pressing down into the neck when I shift. You see I'm traveling along the surface of the string. That allows me to move comfortably up and down the string without getting that stuck feeling that I'm sure you're all very familiar with. And you could do chromatic scales. Whole tone scales, melodic harmonic minor scales. This is your foundation for the octaves, because if you can change position in tune and you can play in position in tune, you will play your double stops in tune. So let's jump ahead to thirds, because this is the most uncomfortable configuration of our fingers. You want to lead your thirds always with your third and fourth fingers. And by the way, with all of these one finger scales, we're always going to play the bottom note of the double stop, which means you only have to do the 1 octave scale on the G string, the D string, and the A string. You don't have to worry about it so much on the E string, because again, we're looking only at the bottom note of the double stops. Did I pick a key? I can't remember. Let's do C major. So, now we want to be very particular about making sure that we're shifting correctly coming down. My third finger is my guide finger. The guide note is G. Same thing, shift with my third finger. And then there's your scale in thirds. I expect you to play it better in tune.